Alrighty, well, thanks for tuning in to Leading Forecast and very interesting situation setting up across the eastern portion of the nation. Let's go over this is the current visible satellite, and you can see we have this large deck of clouds sitting across the northeast here. That's keeping us pretty cool, but that's not the main thing we're watching. We're going to be watching this severe weather that has the potential to break out down across this area, and actually is already doing so. We'll show you that here in just a second. Here's the infrared satellite, and you can see storms starting to get going down in here. You can see some of these little more wider dots, and in fact we're going over this is the current Doppler radar, and you can see we do have in fact already have our first tornado warning down across Virginia for Amherst County until I guess that'd be until 2:30 Eastern time. Let's go on over. We will quickly go on over. This is the severe weather outlook for the day. This is across the Northeast. We do have that moderate risk of severe weather from points basically Washington, D.C. northwestward into very southern PA, including Virginia, North Carolina, places like that in that moderate risk. And that is for tornadoes. In fact, later on, they're forecasting 15% risk of tornadoes. Now, I know some of you guys that aren't accustomed to severe weather across the east, you're saying, oh, 15%, that's nothing to worry about. Well, it is quite a bit to worry about because that's something we would look for. If we see a 15% of storm chasers out in the plains, that's telling us there's a pretty darn good chance of severe weather and tornadoes with that 15% chance. So it's nothing to just kind of tip your nose up at and say, oh, that's not going to happen. That's a very, very good percentage for tornadoes. Going on over, this is the RPM model. This is our forecasted precipitation model by 21Z this afternoon. That's 5 o'clock Eastern time. Here's the precip starting to build in. In fact, you can see all these numerous thunderstorms that are popping up ahead of the main line here. The reason is there's actually a warm front draping down across this area, and there's going to be a lot of winds, 500 blowing in it this way, which is mid-levels, and low-level winds blowing in kind of up from the south and southeast and turning. And as they do and interact with the warm front as well as the mid-level winds, it's going to cause these storms to have some spin. This is by 0Z. This is the squall line is formed. A lot of these storms that were out ahead of it have either died or been pulled into the squall line. This is when your tornado threat will go down dramatically. It will still be there, but I think the overall tornado threat today will be with these storms that develop ahead of the line and into the warm sector or interact especially with the warm front up here. Those will be the ones we will have to watch. They will be supercellular in nature to start out with potentially. Going on over, this is the instability in the atmosphere. This is the CAPE map, and you can see this little ribbon here of higher CAPE values. Basically, this measures buoyancy in the atmosphere. It measures how fast these storms can go up once they do start to rise into the atmosphere, and we're already seeing that happen. But the higher values, anything above about 1,000 or 1,000 joules per kilogram, that's pretty good. But we're seeing some of these values, especially by 23Z, which is 7 o'clock, some of these values indicating between 2 and 3,000. That's 2 to 3 times what a good condition. So very, very high instability will build in this afternoon. This is the 500 millibar map. This is your 500 low. This is coming out here by 21Z. We have very good diffluent flow here, and basically what that means is the winds are starting to spread out. And you can see I'll make a map of it here. Here's your diffluent flow, and these winds are kind of getting pushed together down across this area. But as they start to go out and leave that area, they start to spread out. And as they spread out, they're kind of forced to fill up a larger area, and that creates lift because they're trying to take more air off the ground to fill that 500 millibar area because there was a smaller amount, more tighter amount down here, and as it spreads out, like I said, there's not as much there, so it has to take that air from somewhere to fill in, and that creates lift from the ground to the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and really on a day like today, it's creating enhanced lift almost. Then as we get into 0Z, which is 8 o'clock, you can still see this trough here that's digging in. That's a negative tilted trough, which means more flow, more diffluent flow than if you had a positive or a negative tilted trough. So basically what this means, a lot of lift. If you're in that area that's under the gun today, a lot of lift there, and an enhanced potential for thunderstorms and even tornadoes. This is the low-level winds, 850 millibars. You can remember the 500 millibar winds are kind of blowing in from this direction and this direction. These are blowing in from the south and curving off to like they're coming out of the southwest, and the warm front draping down through here. I mean, you can see very high winds starting to come in by 5 o'clock this afternoon Eastern time, interacting with that warm front and even the warm sector. And so that's where we're paying very, very close attention as these winds kind of crisscross. These storms will begin to rotate, especially out across this area, and that could cause tornadoes to form a little later as we get into about 7 o'clock, even 8 o'clock. The winds really start to pick up and kind of start coming in from the south and southeast. That'll cause even more shear and rotation within the atmosphere as these winds do pick up. And then going on over this, it was kind of hard to tell, but here's the low-level jet. This is by 5 o'clock. You can see down towards Washington, D.C. We're talking 40, maybe even some 45 mile per hour 850 millibar low-level jet winds. As we get into 7 to 8 o'clock, the winds really start to pick up from the south and then trending towards the southeast into PA. 45 to maybe even some 50 mile per hour 850 millibar winds. Basically what this means is when you get stronger winds blowing in different directions, there's a lot more shear and you can get a lot more rotation, which means obviously a better potential for severe weather. And so everything's really primed out there today. The big question will be, how much instability do we truly get to build in here? Will the models be off a little bit? If so, it can be quite a large change. But I think we're already starting to see what's going to happen. We already have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings and already a tornado warning. So a watch will be issued shortly, according to the Storm Prediction Center, for tornadoes out across that area. So we'll keep a close eye on that. In fact, I may have a slide. Yes, I do. There's your slide. There's that tornado watch that may be or will be issued here in just a little bit across portions of North Carolina, a small portion of South Carolina, Virginia, DC, places like that. So if you're in that area, stay weather aware today. You can follow me. I'll be posting updates on things all day. You can follow us on Facebook at Swift Chase Team, or Severe Weather Intercept and Film Team, I'm sorry. Or you can follow me at Swift 4 Caster, and that is Swift and then the number 4 Caster on Twitter, and I will be posting things on there as well all day on new watches, warnings, radar scans, things like that. So we'll keep you updated as we go throughout the day. Stay safe if you're on the East Coast.